Hey everybody, welcome to another AI Guide Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. Happy Sunday to everyone. It's Sunday here in the US. It's already Monday already in Asia. But thanks a lot for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And let's jump right into it today. As usual, we do three different stories each live, and today is no exception. But there's a focus to today. So hopefully by now you know that our tagline is Making AI Human. And that is the common thread in the stories today. So first up is there's a guy who is a professor emeritus of AI whose name is Gary Marcus, and he was at NYU. Emeritus means he's retired, but this is an AI heavy hitter in the academic world. And Elon Musk had a tweet very recently saying that he believed that AGI, or artificial general intelligence, would be here by 2029. You may recognize that date because Ray Kurzweil predicted that the singularity would occur, not AGI, but the singularity would occur in 2029. The singularity is computers matching human intelligence in terms of capability. That's different than artificial general intelligence, which I believe Ray has predicted for 2040. But we all know that Elon Musk is deeply involved in AI in a bunch of ways. But Gary Marcus says, I am willing to bet you $100,000 that you're not right about AGI by 2029. And we've talked a lot on this channel about the timing of AGI, and even we've offered differing opinions about whether AGI would even happen or not. And in fact, one of the things it talks about in this article is that there's a group of people who believe that it's only a 50-50 shot for AGI by the year 2099. So the opinions about AGI are all over the place, predictably. Why? Because it's difficult. And anything that's difficult is up for debate and speculation about who's right about their predictions about it. One of the things Gary Marcus points out is that even though Elon Musk is brilliant, he hasn't been so great at timing. So Gary Marcus mentions that back in 2017, Elon Musk predicted that full self-driving would be here in 2 years. I remember that, by the way. And 2 years would have been 2019, and here we are in 2022. But listeners on this channel know, as we discussed last week or the week before, about a recent interview with Elon Musk where he said, I was wrong about that. Why was I wrong? Because self-driving is hard. There are almost an infinite number of variables that an AI has to predict and contend with for full autonomous driving. That said, we also talked about a few examples of actual full self-driving that are occurring right now. First of all, we've talked a few times on this channel that there's multiple truck companies with autonomous trucks driving the freeways of the United States right this minute. Now, there is a human safety driver sitting there, but by and large, especially on the nation's freeways, that driver is sitting there doing nothing. We also know that Waymo has been licensed for full autonomous robotaxi service for a couple of years now in Phoenix. And most recently, we talked about the fact that the state of California Public Utilities Commission is deciding on statewide autonomous driving licenses right now. So that's under active regulatory review. And so we talked about that in the context of regulation. But it's interesting that self-driving, while it is not here, level 5 autonomy is not here. Even level 4 autonomy, which means the human is sitting there acting as a safety driver with all the controls, but the car is fully autonomous. Even that is still a little bit debatable, right? But we also know that level 3 autonomy, which is the AI is able to handle full self-driving on freeways and divided highways and stuff like that, is out there and running and racking up millions of miles by the year now. So everything is incremental. And for those of you who don't know what that means is one thing builds on another through time in a gradual way. And clearly self-driving is an incremental event like that. So Elon Musk has not responded to Gary Marcus yet in this bet. But like I said, there's debate, and there should be debate, because all this stuff that's going on is hard. And humans are humans. That's our thread today, making AI human. And human beings have different opinions. Human beings believe different things. Human beings believe all kinds of things with no data to support it at all. So clearly, the timing of events in AI is up for debate. But I think it's pretty clear that this being 2022, when it comes to self-driving, if the California Public Utilities Commission does approve statewide robo-taxi service, albeit off hours, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. or 10 to 6, whatever they decide, it'll start out that way, but then it'll start to pull back on both ends, probably evening commute first, from 11 to 10 or 10 to 9, and gradually creep backwards. But it is coming. It's coming whether it's 2023 or 2024, 2025. The same, I think, is safe to say with AGI. The question is, when will it happen? We just did a story, I believe on the very last live, about a breakthrough in artificial general intelligence by DeepMind. And while it's very, very early as a breakthrough, that doesn't mean that over the course of this decade or the next decade, as Ray Kurzweil predicted, it won't happen. I think given the exponential increase of computer processing speed, computer processing power in terms of chip capability, and algorithm improvement, which is very, very rapid now, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, that the foundation is being laid to get to AGI one day. I don't know when. I listen to people who are, active, actual practitioners in the field of AI, meaning they're building algorithms, they're creating the new chips, they are creating greater speed by hardware breakthroughs. These are the people who will know best. And what I do here on the AI Guide is take a lot of information and synthesize it or put it together and make predictions based on that. And so far, we've done pretty well. I do not know when AGI will happen. But I do know long before that, that AI will have a very, very significant impact on human beings. It already is in terms of the wearables that people wear, like my Aura Ring or your Fitbit watch or anything like that. It is doing it in medical devices for people. We talked about that recently. And very, very soon it's going to do it in terms of autonomous ride sharing, whether that's next year or 2 years or 3 years from now. It's in the immediate future. What I call short term being 1 to 2 years, 3 years out max, versus medium term being 5 to 10 years, and long term being 20 plus years. These changes are upon us, and I would say AGI is a longer term thing, but clearly the impacts are going to be very, very significant on humans in the next short term and medium term. Which gets us to our next aspect of making AI human, which is an article about women are making strides in AI, but are still underrepresented, according to a new study by Concordia Research. So, computer science has been male-dominated for a long time. However, this article goes on to say that that's starting to change, and I will read part of this because it's important to emphasize this, because you all know I started the AI Guide to prepare young adults for an AI-driven future. That is not targeted specifically at male. It's targeted at males and females and non-binaries. I don't care about that. I care about the human impact of AI, regardless of your gender or gender identification, because it's going to affect all of us the same. Similarly, I don't care about what race you are, what religion you are, none of that. All I care about is what is the impact of AI going to be on my kids and your kids down the road. So Concordia Research is based in Canada. I like to talk about AI in other areas of the world. This article says female researchers in AI face some of the same challenges that they face in other STEM fields: underrepresentation, lower hiring rates, and limited professional opportunities are all ongoing barriers. However, that may be changing. Before I go on about AI, let me just make a few comments about fields where women previously faced gender-based barriers. Banking was completely male-dominated as recently as the 1990s. Here we are 20 years later, a little over 20 years later, and banking is now female-dominated, except at the very top of the industry, and that will change. It's unfortunate that merit doesn't always win out, but that's not reality, and I try to give you guys reality here. But sooner rather than later, even the very top of banking will be female-dominated, just like the rest of banking is now. Another field, medical doctors, MDs. More women are admitted to medical school now than men. If you haven't noticed, more and more and more women have now completed medical school and completed their residencies and are practicing. So the medical field will become very shortly a female-dominated profession. It is well into transition. So computer science, it will happen. Computer science is one of the lagging industries, but it will catch up. Overall, the study shows the number of women working in AI has increased since the beginning of the century, meaning 2001, but in terms of percentage makeup, women still constitute only 27%. However, a notable increase in female-male and female-female collaboration is showing up in research. Also, the diversity of backgrounds of AI researchers, both male and female, is highlighted in the paper. But the pattern really emerges in collaboration. And speaking of this, you may remember that I interviewed a professor of AI, the vice chair of the department at the University of California, Santa Barbara, a top 5 public research institute in the United States here, and the vice chair is female. They believe, this article believes, that someone who comes from different fields can participate in the AI revolution. And we're seeing that more and more in hiring, by the way, generally. I can tell you that I actively follow hiring trends in the corporate world. Why? Because I've been responsible for human resources as well as IT and finance for 20 years now. And corporations now depend more on the fit of the person than exactly what they studied, because they know that someone who wants to learn, is willing to learn, and is teachable can learn something completely outside their field, but they have the desire to learn, and therefore they have the desire to fit into corporations and grow. So it is not surprising that people are starting to be hired who are not coming straight necessarily out of computer science. They may be coming out of physics, for example, which is a natural collaborative field with computer science. Finally, the paper touched on the relatively low number of female AI researchers at the center of their respective scientific networks. Core positions greatly enhance collaboration ties and boost scientists' career. However, female core researchers had, on average, lower levels of seniority and professional reach. This is partially attributed to family obligations. So this is an area where AI has to keep working on, right? And not just AI, but society in general. Some societies in the world do better than others when it comes to gender equity in child rearing and allowing time away from career track and getting back on a career track. Whether you're male or female, it should not have to be a choice to choose between career and having kids. Why? Because the greatest meaning in life, in my personal opinion, is having kids. There's nothing like it. And the reality is that careers are transient. For example, I happen to have known very closely at one time a guy who went on to become a Fortune 50 CEO, a CEO of one of the 50 largest corporations in the United States. So this was a very, very accomplished individual in the business world. And even a career like that is transient, right? You get to a certain age, you retire, and you start to drop out of the media and the world moves on. what the world does not move on from is your kids, because your kids live their own lives. They grow up, have their own families, have their own careers, but they continue your family and they continue the history of your family. So I got to say, from a personal perspective, I think that society should view having families as a very high priority. And to the degree that it doesn't, that's unfortunate. Personal opinion inserted there. Okay, finally, item 3 in making AI human. So the first is, when is artificial general intelligence going to occur? But it doesn't matter really so much in terms of AI's impact on human beings. And second, the growing equality that is starting to be seen in the AI field, with women becoming more and more representative in artificial intelligence. Again, a different aspect of making AI human. And finally, we have understanding the real-world application of AI to business, something that I am personally acquainted with. So I'm going to read parts of this article, and then I'm going to make my own comments on what this article says. So artificial intelligence is today's most discussed and debated technology, generating widespread adulation or praise and anxiety, and significant government and business interest and investment. 6 years ago, DeepMind created AlphaGo that defeated the world Go champion. It's already been 6 years since that seminal event that, as you know from my book review of AI Superpowers by Kai-Fu Lee, that event triggered the Chinese rush to become global #1 in artificial intelligence, which I've shared with you, I believe it will be. 2021 was the year that AI went from an emerging technology to a maturing technology that has real-world impact, both positive and negative, declared the 2022 AI Index report. This was year 5 this year of the AI Index report. This is based on private investment in AI, the number of AI patents filed, the number of bills related to AI passed in legislatures around the world. But despite all this activity, what is the real world impact? And what is the definition of that impact? I'll get to that in a minute. And I've already given it to you. The field of AI is still evolving rapidly, and even experts have a hard time understanding and tracking progress across the field. That's why I started the AI Guide. It's why we exist. Without the relevant data for reasoning about the state of AI technology, we are essentially flying blind in our conversations. Yes and no. Again, just a few more minutes. What makes a computer intelligent? Is it the fact that they can calculate faster than humans? That's certainly one aspect of it. So one definition of it from the 100-year study is anything a computer did in the past or does today is AI. And what is an operational definition of AI? AI can be defined by what AI researchers do. Yes, fair enough, as a statement. So we know that AI is 60 plus years old now. In fact, the term AI was coined back in the 50s. If you want to learn more about the beginning of AI, check out my videos on the history of AI that were the first videos I posted. And they give a really good short 5-6 video introduction to the history of AI that's still relevant. AI is learning from data. That is the definition posed by this article, and it's a pretty good definition because that is the definition of machine learning, it's the definition of deep learning, it's the definition of reinforcement learning, learning from data. So what has shifted AI from being an emerging technology to a maturing technology? Stuff we've talked about. The development and use of specialized GPUs, best suited for AI calculations, lots and lots and lots of data, classification of that data, and they don't mention it, but my listeners here know it, cloud computing and unlimited computing power is a key driver of artificial intelligence. The article says, call this the triumph of statistical analysis. Then it goes on to say, last year, a survey of 30,000 American manufacturing companies found that productivity is significantly higher among plants that use predictive analytics, meaning AI-driven analysis. If AI is learning from data, and that's really the end of that article, well, that didn't help us that much. I have given you much, much more practical definitions of how is AI impacting the world. I just talked about it at the beginning of this video. AI self-driving is here and is rapidly improving. Humans are still in the vehicles, except in Phoenix, but not for long. So that's one way that AI is actively impacting business. Why? Because moving people from place to place within a city is a business, whether it's called Uber's a business, Lyft is a business, taxi companies are a business. So that's one aspect. Another we've talked about several times here, hiring. Hiring is now significantly AI-driven, whether people want to acknowledge that or not, and companies don't. Why? Because they know that it's heavily controversial. But AI algorithms decide when they scan your resume whether you get considered for a job or not. And virtually all platforms like LinkedIn, Indeed, Career Builder, all of them use artificial intelligence now and are using it to screen you. How about that for human impact in business AI? Another one, your Microsoft Office suite at work. Excel, Word, email through Outlook, all has AI-enabled technology in it now, and we all use that all day, every day at work now. So AI, that's just a few examples. AI is significantly impacting business life. It is significantly impacting home life already, right? With your Ring system for security, or I was running my Zumba earlier today to clean up the house, or your smart appliances that manage how your washer washes your clothes and how your dryer dries your clothes, or how your refrigerator monitors its state inside and changes what's going on to depending on what kind of food you have in your refrigerator now. So the impact of AI is actually really easy to describe for those of us who are deeply involved with AI. And I'm deeply involved with it through the AI guide and at work, but not as a programmer, which many of you listening may want to be or might be. But AI is impacting everything, but it's nothing compared to what's coming. And this is what I keep emphasizing. In the short term, you will be actively and visibly using AI to do your job at work every day. In the short term, you will begin to see its impact on the transportation industry, whether it's drones, robots, or autonomous vehicles delivering your packages or taking you from point to point in urban areas. And soon, urban air vehicles taking you from point to point, again, initially with people driving them, but not for long. That's medium term, that those will go autonomous because of the regulation needed and the slow pace that regulation moves at. And that's just scratching the surface. So what does this all mean? It means click the link below, get your free resource. Everything in the resource is free. What is the resource? It helps you learn more about AI than you can learn by watching the lives or the weekly videos or reading what else you can read online without actually taking a full-blown course. So get the resource. It's free. Everything in it is free. It'll also open up the ability for you to become a beta participant in my course, the AI Safe Career Pivot, that will help you change careers into something that's AI safe. And also, like, subscribe, share, please. Help us continue to build my audience. And thank you so much to my listeners and subscribers. I will post this later today, but we recently passed 2 major milestones. 400 viewers, which is keeping us on pace. 400 subscribers, which is keeping us on pace with some of the biggest channels on YouTube in terms of subscriber growth in its first 2 years, and also more than 40,000 viewers. We passed that a few weeks ago. Thank you so much. And we're almost to 45,000 already. So thank you so much for your support. Click the link below, get your free resource, like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you next Sunday. Take care and have a good week ahead. Take care, everybody. Bye.